The bank manager slides the foreclosure notice across his mahogany desk, and I watch my daughter's face crumble as she realizes I'm still here, still breathing, still very much alive. "Mrs. Chen," he says carefully, "it appears someone has been making unauthorized withdrawals from your account for the past 18 months. Sarah's perfectly manicured nails dig into her purse strap, and for the first time since her father's funeral, I see her exactly as she is. Not my grieving daughter, not my devoted caregiver, just a woman who bet everything on my death and lost. My name is Eleanor Chen, and I'm 74 years old. I survived the Cultural Revolution, built a restaurant from nothing, and buried a husband after 51 years of marriage. I never thought my own daughter would try to bury me while I was still breathing. The first sign something was wrong came when my debit card was declined at Wong's Market. I was buying ingredients for dumplings, just flour, ground pork, and scallions, when the card reader started beeping that angry red beep that makes everyone in line stare at you like you've committed a crime. "Try again," said Kevin Wong, the owner's son who'd known me since he was in diapers. I tried again. Same angry beep. "Maybe there's something wrong with the machine," he said kindly, but I could see the pity in his eyes. Another old Chinese lady who couldn't manage her money. "I'll come back tomorrow," I said, leaving the groceries on the counter and walking, out with my head high, even though my cheeks burned with embarrassment. At home, I called the bank. After 20 minutes of pressing numbers and listening to elevator music, I finally reached a human being. "Mrs. Chen? This is David Rodriguez from customer service. How can I help you?" "My card was declined at the store. I should have over $8,000 in my checking account." The pause was too long. "Mrs. Chen, I'm showing a balance of $63.47. The world tilted. I sat down hard on the kitchen stool, the one Tommy had built for me so I could reach the high shelves. "That's impossible. Let me check your recent transactions. I see multiple large withdrawals over the past several months, all authorized with your PIN number." My PIN number. The only person who knew my PIN was Sarah. Sweet Sarah, who'd insisted on knowing all my account information just in case something happened. Sarah, who'd been so helpful since Tommy died, taking care of all the bills and paperwork so I wouldn't have to worry about anything. How large were these withdrawals? The most recent was yesterday for $1,500. Before that, $1,200 on the 15th, $2,000 on the 3rd. His voice trailed off. "Mrs. Chen, these withdrawals total almost $8,000 over the past 6 weeks. $8,000. My entire savings account that Tommy and I had built penny by penny over 30 years of 14-hour days at Golden Dragon Restaurant. The money we'd planned to leave to Sarah and the grandchildren. The money Sarah had apparently already taken. Mrs. Chen? Are you still there?" "Yes." My voice sounded strange, like it was coming from far away. "Can you tell me where these withdrawals were made?" "Several different ATMs around the city. And there were also some online transfers to a checking account under the name Sarah Chen Martinez, Sarah's married name. My daughter had been stealing from me systematically. Methodically, she was harvesting vegetables from a garden." "I need to speak with a manager," I said. "Of course. Can you come in today? We'll need to file a fraud report." Fraud, such a clean, clinical word for what Sarah had done to me. After I hung up, I sat in my kitchen and really looked at it for the first time in months. The bills stacked neatly on the counter, bills Sarah had been taking care of for me. The checkbook I hadn't touched since Tommy died because Sarah said she'd handle everything. The stack of bank statements I'd never bothered to open because Sarah assured me everything was fine. I opened the most recent statement with shaking hands. There it was, transaction after transaction, bleeding my account dry. But it wasn't random. The withdrawals were timed perfectly, always the day after Tommy's Social Security check was deposited. Sarah had been waiting for the money to come in, then taking it right back out. She'd turned my grief into an ATM. The phone rang. Sarah's name appeared on the caller ID. "Hi, Mama. How are you feeling today?" Her voice was so warm, so caring. The same voice that had comforted me when Tommy died, that had promised she'd take care of everything so I could focus on healing. "I'm fine," I said carefully. Just tried to buy groceries and my card was declined. Oh no, that's so embarrassing. Don't worry, I'll call the bank and sort it out. You know how these computer systems can be. I already called them. A tiny pause. So, brief, I might have imagined it. And? They said someone has been making withdrawals with my PIN number. That's terrible. Identity theft is such a problem these days. Did you report it as fraud? The ease with which she lied took my breath away. No hesitation, no stammering. Just smooth concern, as if she hadn't been the one emptying my account for months. Not yet, I said. I wanted to talk to you first. Good thinking. Let me come over and we'll go to the bank together. You shouldn't. Handle this alone. You know how confusing these financial things can be. Confusing. Another word she'd been using a lot lately. Overwhelming and too much for you to worry about. Words designed to make me feel helpless, dependent. I can handle it, I said. Mama, please. You're still grieving. Let me help. But I was done being helped. Done being managed and protected and gently pushed aside like a piece of furniture too old to be useful. Sarah, I said quietly. Your father and I worked 7 days a week for 30 years to build that savings account. I know, Mama. That's why it's so awful that someone stole from you. Someone. As if it were a stranger. As if she hadn't been the one sitting at my kitchen table every week, asking about my finances, insisting she needed my PIN, just for emergencies. I'll see you at the bank, I said, and hung up. I sat there in the silence of my kitchen, surrounded by the familiar smell of sesame oil and star anise that had soaked into the walls over the years. This was the kitchen where I'd taught Sarah to fold dumplings when she was 7, where we'd planned her wedding, where she'd cried on my shoulder when she was having trouble getting pregnant, where she'd held my hand after Tommy's funeral and promised she'd take care of me. But sitting there with the bank statement in my lap, I felt something I hadn't felt since Tommy died. A spark of the woman I used to be. The woman who'd arrived in America with nothing but a suitcase and a dream. The woman who'd stood up to health inspectors and aggressive landlords and customers who thought they could shortchange the Chinese lady. The woman who'd raised Sarah to be better than this. First National Bank sat on the corner of 5th and Main like a fortress of marble and glass, the kind of building designed to make you feel small and grateful for their attention. I'd been banking there for 23 years, since Tommy and I first opened our business account for the restaurant. The lobby was all polished floors and hushed voices, with that peculiar bank smell of leather and anxiety. I approached the customer service desk, my purse clutched tight against my side, the bank statement folded neatly in my coat pocket. I need to speak with a manager about unauthorized withdrawals from my account, I told the young woman behind the desk. She had that practiced smile they teach in customer service training. Of course. Let me get Mr. Patterson for you. He handles, our fraud cases. Fraud cases. I was officially a fraud case now. Mr. Patterson was younger than I expected, maybe 40, with kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. He led me to a small conference room with a fake plant and motivational posters about building your future. Mrs. Chen, I've reviewed your account activity, he said, settling into his chair with a thick folder. I have to say, this is quite concerning. $8,237 withdrawn over 6 weeks, all by someone who knew my PIN number. Yes, that's what makes this particularly problematic. Do you have any idea who might have access to that information? The question hung in the air between us. I could lie. I could protect Sarah, claim I had no idea how someone got my PIN. But sitting in that sterile room, looking at the evidence of my daughter's betrayal spread across the table, I found I didn't want to protect her anymore. My daughter, I said quietly. His eyebrows rose slightly. Your daughter has been making these withdrawals? I believe so. She insisted on knowing my PIN after my husband died. Said it was for emergencies. I see. He made a note on his pad. Mrs. Chen, I need to ask you directly. Did you authorize any of these withdrawals? No. And you're prepared to file a police report stating that these were unauthorized transactions? Police report. The words hit me like a physical blow. Filing a police report against Sarah meant this wasn't just a family disagreement anymore. This was criminal. I need to think about that. Mr. Patterson leaned forward slightly. Mrs. Chen, I understand this is difficult. Family financial crimes are more common than you might think. But without a police report, our ability to recover these funds is extremely limited. What would happen to her if I filed a report? That would depend on the district attorney, but given the amount involved and the systematic nature of the withdrawals, he paused delicately. Your daughter could face felony charges. Felony charges. My Sarah, who'd been class valedictorian, who'd graduated summa cum laude from UC Berkeley, who taught Sunday school at the Methodist Church, my Sarah could go to prison. Can I have some time to consider this? Of course. But Mrs. Chen, I should mention that we've also noticed something else concerning about your account. My stomach clenched. What? There's been an application submitted to add your daughter as a joint account holder. Withdrawal privileges. I never applied for that. The application was submitted online 3 days ago using your login credentials. It's currently pending approval. Joint account holder. That would mean Sarah could take everything legally. No more sneaking around with ATM withdrawals. She'd have complete access to whatever was left of my money. Can you stop the application? Since you're here in person and disputing it, yes. We'll reject it immediately. He made another note. Mrs. Chen, may I ask about your current living situation? Are you living alone? Yes, in my own house. And your daughter? Does she have keys? Access to your home? The questions felt invasive, but I understood why he was asking. She has keys. She's been helping me since my husband died. Helping with what, specifically? Bills, paperwork, grocery shopping sometimes. I paused, thinking about all the ways Sarah had inserted herself into my life. She convinced me to give her power of attorney for medical decisions. Mr. Patterson's pen stopped moving. Just medical or general power of attorney? I'm not sure. She brought the papers to sign after the funeral. I wasn't thinking clearly. Mrs. Chen, I strongly recommend you consult with an attorney about that power of attorney document. General power of attorney would give your daughter legal authority over all your financial decisions. The room felt smaller suddenly. If Sarah had general power of attorney, she could do anything she wanted with my money. Sell my house, empty my accounts, put me in a nursing home. I need to go home, I said, standing abruptly. Mrs. Chen, please, take my card. Think about the police report. The longer we wait, the harder it becomes to recover the funds. I took his card and walked out of the bank in a daze. The afternoon sun felt too bright, the street noise too loud. Everything looked the same. The same parking meters, the same shops, the same people. Hurrying past. But my world had fundamentally shifted. At home, I went straight to the kitchen drawer where I kept important papers. The power of attorney document was right where Sarah had filed it, neatly labeled in her precise handwriting. I pulled it out with trembling hands. General durable power of attorney. The words swam before my eyes. I read the document twice before the full meaning sank in. Sarah had complete authority over my finances, my property, my medical care. She could make any decision she wanted in my best interest, including deciding I was incompetent to manage my own affairs. The phone rang. Sarah again. Mama? I've been trying to reach you. Where did you go after we talked? The bank. Good. Did you get everything sorted out with the identity theft? There was that word again. Identity theft. As if someone had stolen my identity instead of my daughter stealing my money. Sarah, I need to ask you something. Of course. Anything. Do you remember the power of attorney document you had me sign? A pause. Longer this time. Yes. Why? Was it just for medical decisions? Mama, you were so upset after Papa's funeral. You couldn't even remember to eat. I was worried about you making important decisions when you were grieving. That wasn't an answer. Sarah, I asked you a specific question. It's a general power of attorney, but I would never use it unless you really needed me to. You know that. But I didn't know that. Not anymore. I want to see you, I said. Tonight. Of course, I'll bring dinner. You shouldn't be cooking when you're upset. Upset. Another one of her words designed to diminish me, to make me seem fragile and unreliable. After I hung up, I sat at my kitchen table and thought about the woman I used to be. The woman who'd stood her ground when the city tried to shut down our restaurant over a permit dispute. The woman who'd negotiated with suppliers and dealt with difficult customers and balanced the books every night. After the last customer left, that woman wouldn't have let anyone, not even her own daughter, steal from her. But grief had made me smaller, more dependent. Tommy's death had broken something in me, and Sarah had seen that break as an opportunity. I looked around my kitchen, really looked at it. The walls needed painting. The linoleum was worn thin near the sink. But it was mine. Tommy and I had bought this house when Sarah was 10, and every corner held memories of our life together. Sarah wanted me to sell it. She'd been mentioning downsizing and senior living communities more and more often. Places where I'd be safer and better cared for. Places where I'd have no control over my own life. The doorbell rang at exactly 6 o'clock. Sarah stood on my porch holding a bag from Panda Express, her face arranged in an expression of loving concern. "How are you feeling, Mama? You sounded so stressed on the phone." She was wearing her good pearl earrings and a navy blazer, her professional outfit. The one she wore when she wanted to seem trustworthy and responsible. "I'm fine. Come in." She bustled into the kitchen, unpacking containers of orange chicken and fried rice like she was feeding an invalid. "I got your favorites. You need to keep your strength up." "Sarah," I said, not sitting down. "I know about the withdrawals." Her hands stilled for just a moment over the food containers. "What withdrawals?" "The $8,000 you've taken from my account over us the past 6 weeks." She turned to face me, and for a split second, I saw something flicker across her face. Not surprise, relief. She was glad we were finally having this conversation. "Mama," she said softly, "sit down. We need to talk." We sat across from each other at my kitchen table, the orange chicken growing cold between us. Sarah's hands were folded neatly in her lap, and she had that expression I remembered from when she was a child, caught breaking something valuable. Part defiance, part shame. "I was going to tell you," she said finally. "When? After you'd taken everything?" "It's not like that, Mama." She leaned forward, her voice taking on that patient tone she used when she thought I was being unreasonable. "You don't understand the situation you're in. Then explain it to me." Sarah reached into her purse and pulled out a manila folder, thick with papers. She spread them across the table like she was dealing cards. "Your property taxes are 3 months behind. The house needs a new roof. The inspector said it could cost $12,000. Your health insurance doesn't cover the physical therapy you'll need for your arthritis. And that's not even counting the credit card debt." "What credit card debt?" She pulled out a statement and slid it toward me. My name was on it, but I'd never seen it before. The balance was $11,847. "You applied for this card online 2 months ago," Sarah said. "You don't remember because you were having one of your confused episodes." Confused episodes. There was that phrase again. "I don't have confused episodes. Mama, last week you called me at 2 in the morning asking where Papa was. You thought he was at the restaurant and couldn't understand why he wasn't answering his phone." The memory hit me like a slap. I had called her. I'd woken up disoriented, reaching for Tommy's side of the bed and finding it empty. For a moment, just a moment, I'd forgotten he was gone. "Grieving isn't the same as being confused," I said. "It's not just grief. You left the stove on all night 3 weeks ago. Mrs. Rodriguez next door had to come check on you because she smelled gas. You don't remember that either, do you?" I remembered. I'd been making soup and had gotten distracted watching the news. But it was one mistake, not a pattern. "You've been declining for months," Sarah continued. "The doctor even mentioned it at your last appointment." "What doctor?" "Dr. Kim, your primary care physician. We discussed your memory issues and the possibility of early-stage dementia." The words hit me like ice water. Dr. Kim never said anything to me about dementia, because I asked him not to. I didn't want to worry you unnecessarily. Sarah's voice was gentle, sympathetic. "But Mama, you're not safe living alone anymore, and you're not capable of managing your finances. So you decided to manage them for me by stealing my money? I wasn't stealing. I was protecting what's left. She pulled out more papers, estimates for roof repair, past due notices, medical bills. If you keep spending the way you have been, you'll lose everything within 6 months. The house, the savings, all of it. I haven't been spending anything unusual. Mama, you bought 7 bottles of sesame oil last month. 7. You have a closet full of shoes you'll never wear and a refrigerator stocked with food that goes bad because you forget it's there. I wanted to argue, but something cold was settling in my stomach. I did buy things I already had sometimes, and I had found moldy vegetables in the crisper drawer more than once. Even if that's true, I said, you had no right to take my money without asking. I tried asking. Remember? I suggested you move to Sunset Manor, that lovely assisted living place with the garden. You refused. I suggested we set up a budget together. You said you were fine. I suggested you let me handle the bills temporarily. You agreed to that at least. Handling bills doesn't mean emptying my bank account. I moved the money to a savings account in both our names. It's still your money, Mama. I'm just protecting it from your impulses. Our names. She'd moved my money to an account I couldn't access alone. Where is this account? At a different bank. Somewhere you can't accidentally withdraw everything in a moment of confusion. The patronizing tone in her voice made my hands clench. You mean somewhere I can't access my own money? Mama, please try to understand. I'm doing this because I love you. Papa made me promise to take care of you, and that's what I'm doing. Papa. She was invoking Tommy now, using his memory as justification for what she'd done. Your father never asked you to steal from me. He asked me to make sure you were safe, and you're not safe with unrestricted access to money when you're not thinking clearly. I stared at my daughter across the table, really looked at her. The perfectly applied makeup, the expensive blazer, the manicured nails. Sarah had always been careful about her appearance, but this was different. This was armor. Sarah, I said slowly, are you in some kind of trouble? Her face went very still. What do you mean? Financial trouble. What this is really about? Of course not. David's practice is doing very well. But she said it too quickly, and she looked away when she said it. When was the last time David came to visit me? Sarah's husband used to come to Sunday dinners, used to call me to check on how I was doing. I realized I hadn't seen him in months. He's been very busy with work. Sarah, look at me. She met my eyes reluctantly. Is David still living at home? The silence stretched between us like a chasm. Finally, she sighed. We're separated. He moved out 6 weeks ago. 6 weeks ago. Right around the time the large withdrawals started. What happened? It's complicated. David made some bad investments. We lost a lot of money, Mama. The house is in foreclosure. And there it was. The real reason for the stolen money, the power of attorney, the sudden concern about my confusion. Sarah wasn't protecting me. She was robbing me to save herself. How much money did you lose? It doesn't matter. What matters is taking care of you. How much, Sarah? 50,000. Her voice was barely a whisper. David invested our savings in some cryptocurrency scheme. When it collapsed, we lost everything, $50,000. More than half of home. What Tommy and I had saved over 30 years. So you decided to take mine. I decided to preserve what's left of our family's security. Mama, you're going to need long-term care eventually. This money will pay for that. I'm just managing it responsibly. By moving it to an account I can't access. By protecting it from being wasted. I looked at the papers spread across my table. The bills, the estimates, the medical reports I'd never seen. Sarah had built an entire case for my incompetence, complete with documentation and expert opinions. Did Dr. Kim really say I might have dementia? He said there were some concerning signs. Memory lapses, confusion, difficulty with complex tasks. Or grief. Did he mention that possibility? Sarah didn't answer. I stood up and walked to the kitchen window, looking out at the garden Tommy and I had planted together. The tomatoes were coming in nicely, and the jasmine was blooming along the back fence. A woman with dementia couldn't maintain a garden like that. "I want you to leave now," I said without turning around. "Mama, please, we need to talk about your future, about what's best for you." "What's best for me is to live in my own house and control my own money." "You can't. Not anymore. Not safely." I turned to face her. "According to who? You? The daughter who's been systematically stealing from me?" "I haven't been stealing. I've been protecting." "Get out." Sarah gathered up her papers slowly. She was giving me time to change my mind. At the door, she paused. "Mama, I have legal authority to make decisions for you. The power of attorney gives me that right." "We'll see about that." After she left, I stood in my kitchen and felt the weight of what she'd said. Legal authority. She could force me into assisted living. She could sell my house. She could control every aspect of my life, all in the name of protecting me from myself. But as I cleared away the untouched Chinese food, I noticed something Sarah had left behind. A business card had fallen from her folder and slipped under the napkin holder. I picked it up. Henderson and Associates, elder law attorneys, specializing in guardianship and conservatorship proceedings. On the back, someone had written in pencil, "Consult scheduled for Monday, 2 p.m. Sarah wasn't just stealing my money. She was planning to have me declared legally incompetent. Monday. I had until Monday to figure out how to save myself. I barely slept that night, lying in the bed I'd shared with Tommy for 37 years, staring at the ceiling and thinking about guardianship proceedings. I'd seen what happened to Mrs. Wu down the street. Her son had her declared incompetent, sold her house, and put her in a nursing home where she died 6 months later, away from everything she'd ever known. By 5 in the morning, I was sitting at my kitchen table with a cup of tea and the business card Sarah had dropped. Henderson and Associates. I looked them up online and felt Their website was full of testimonials from grateful families who'd helped their confused elderly relatives transition to appropriate care. Sarah had been planning this for weeks, maybe months. I called the office at exactly 9 o'clock when they opened. "Henderson and Associates, this is Jennifer. I'd like to speak with someone about a guardianship consultation scheduled for Monday at 2 o'clock. May I have the name?" "Eleanor Chen." "Oh yes, Mrs. Chen. Your daughter, Sarah, scheduled that appointment. Are you calling to confirm?" "Actually, I'm calling to cancel it." A pause. "I see. Mrs. Chen, I should mention that your daughter has already submitted preliminary paperwork. She's quite concerned about your welfare." Preliminary paperwork. Sarah was further along in this process than I'd realized. "What kind of paperwork?" "I can't discuss the details over the phone, but I can tell you that if you'd like to contest the guardianship petition, you'll need your own attorney. Contest. Like I was fighting a parking ticket instead of fighting for my life." After I hung up, I sat there feeling the walls closing in. Sarah had the power of attorney, a doctor's notes about my confusion, documentation of my alleged financial incompetence, and now a law firm helping her build a case. What did I have? I was still thinking about that when the doorbell rang. "Mrs. Chen? I'm Detective Maria Santos with the Financial Crimes Unit." She was younger than I expected, maybe 40, with kind eyes and a firm handshake. Behind her stood a man in an expensive suit. "This is Mr. Patterson from First National Bank. May we come in?" My heart hammered as I led them to the living room. "Is this about the withdrawals?" "Partly," Detective Santos said, settling into Tommy's old chair. "Mr. Patterson filed a suspicious activity report after your visit yesterday. When we investigated, we found something interesting." She pulled out a tablet and showed me a screen full of bank transactions. "Mrs. Chen, your daughter has been quite busy. Besides the withdrawals from your personal account, she's also been accessing a business account linked to your restaurant. That account was closed when we sold the restaurant 5 years ago. According to the bank, it was reactivated 3 months ago. There have been several large deposits and immediate withdrawals." She scrolled through the transactions. Deposits of $5,000, $8,000, $12,000, amounts that made no sense. "Mrs. Chen," Mr. Patterson said gently, "we believe your daughter may be using your social security number and business credentials to commit bank fraud. These deposits appear to be from loans taken out in your name. Loans. In my name. My knees went weak. How many loans? We've identified 3 so far. A personal loan for $20,000, a business loan for $35,000, and a home equity line of credit for $50,000. $105,000. Sarah hadn't just stolen my savings. She'd mortgaged my entire future. The home equity loan is particularly concerning, Detective Santos added. It's secured against your house. If the payments aren't made, I'll lose my home. Yes. I sat there absorbing this new level of betrayal. Sarah hadn't just been stealing from me. She'd been systematically destroying my financial life while convincing me she was protecting me. Mrs. Chen, Detective Santos said, we need you to come to the station and make a formal statement. With this level of fraud, we're looking at multiple felony charges. What happens to Sarah? That will depend on the district attorney, but given the amount involved. She paused. Your daughter is looking at serious prison time. Prison. My Sarah, who'd never even gotten a speeding ticket. Before you decide, Mr. Patterson said, there's something else you should know. We pulled the signature cards for all these accounts. The handwriting analysis shows clear evidence of forgery. But what? Your daughter was smart about it. She practiced. We found dozens of sheets of paper in the trash outside your house with your signature on them. She'd been working on perfecting your handwriting for months. Months. While I was grieving Tommy, while I was vulnerable and trusting, Sarah had been planning this elaborate theft. Detective Santos leaned forward. Mrs. Chen, I know this is overwhelming, but we need to act quickly. If your daughter realizes we're investigating, she might try to access more accounts or transfer money offshore. She's planning to have me declared incompetent on Monday. Both their faces changed. What do you mean? Detective Santos asked. I told them about the power of attorney, the elder law attorney, the guardianship consultation. When I finished, they exchanged a look that made my stomach clench. Mrs. Chen, Mr. Patterson said carefully, if your daughter succeeds in having you declared incompetent, she could legally authorize herself to manage all these fraudulent debts. She could sell your house to pay them off, put you in long-term care, and essentially make her theft look like legitimate financial management. Can she do that? If the court believes you're not capable of managing your own affairs, yes. Detective Santos stood up. We need to move fast. I'm going to ask you to do something that might be difficult, but it's the only way to protect yourself. What? We want you to call your daughter and invite her over. Night? We'll be here, hidden, with recording equipment. If we can get her to admit to the fraud on tape, you want me to trick her into confessing. We want to give you the evidence you need to protect yourself. I looked around my living room, at the photos of Sarah's graduations, her wedding, the grandchildren I rarely saw anymore. At the life Tommy and I had built together, now threatened by our own daughter. If I do this, if I help you build a case against her, she really will go to prison. Mrs. Chen, Detective Santos said gently, your daughter has stolen over $100,000 from you and put your home at risk. She's planning to have you declared incompetent so she can continue stealing legally. This isn't a family disagreement anymore. This is serious criminal activity. But she's my daughter. I understand. But right now, you need to decide who you're going to protect, her or yourself. After they left, I sat in my kitchen holding the phone, Sarah's number on the screen. All I had to do was call her, invite her over, and let the police record whatever she said. All I had to do was betray my daughter the way she'd betrayed me. But as I sat there, I thought about something Detective Santos had said. Sarah had been practicing my signature for months. That meant this wasn't a desperate act driven by her divorce and financial troubles. This was premeditated, calculated. She'd started planning to rob me while Tommy was still alive. I dialed her. Number. Mama, how are you feeling today? Tired, I said, and it wasn't a lie. Sarah, can you come over tonight? I've been thinking about what you said about Sunset Manor. Maybe you're right. The relief in her voice was unmistakable. Oh, Mama, I'm so glad. Yes, I'll come over. We can look at the brochures together. Good. Come around 7. I'll make dinner. You don't need to cook. I'll bring something. No, I said firmly. Let me cook for you. One last time in my own kitchen. After I hung up, I looked around my kitchen and felt something I hadn't felt in months. Control. For the first time since Tommy died, I was making decisions about my own life. Even if those decisions broke my heart. I spent the afternoon cooking Sarah's favorite meal, steamed fish with ginger and scallions, the way Tommy used to make it at the restaurant. My hands were steady as I cleaned the fish, steady as I julienned the ginger into perfect matchsticks. Cooking had always been my meditation, and today I needed the calm it brought. Detective Santos and her partner arrived at 6:30, carrying what looked like takeout bags, but were actually recording equipment. They set up quickly and efficiently, placing tiny microphones and cameras where Sarah wouldn't notice them. Remember, Detective Santos said, try to get her talking about the money. Ask about specific amounts, specific dates. The more details she admits to, the stronger our case. And Mrs. Chen, her partner, added, if you feel unsafe at any point, just say the word Jasmine, and we'll come in immediately. Jasmine. Like the flowers blooming outside my kitchen window that Tommy had planted for our anniversary. At exactly 7 o'clock, Sarah knocked. I opened the door to find her holding a bottle of wine and wearing that same blazer from Saturday, her armor outfit. Something smells wonderful, she said, kissing my cheek. I made your favorite fish. We sat at my kitchen table, the same table where she'd spread out her papers 2 days ago, building her case for my incompetence. Tonight, the recording equipment hidden around my house was building a different kind of case. Mama, I brought some brochures from Sunset Manor, Sarah said, pulling pamphlets from her purse. Look at this beautiful garden apartment. You'd have your own kitchen, but with meal service available if you want it. I looked at the glossy photos of smiling elderly people playing cards and tending small container gardens. It looks nice. And the best part is, it's only $3,000 a month. Very reasonable for this level of care. $3,000 a month, $36,000 a year. My Social Security barely covered half that. How would I pay for it? Well, after we sell the house and settle your debts, there should be enough for several years, and I've been setting aside money to help with the costs. Setting aside money. Such a delicate way to describe theft. What debts? I asked, even though I already knew. Sarah pulled out more papers, the same bills she'd shown me before, plus some new ones I hadn't seen. The credit cards, the medical bills, the home repairs. It's quite a lot, Mama. More than you could handle on your own. I don't remember applying for credit cards. You did it online. You were having one of your confused episodes. She reached across and patted my hand. It's okay. It happens to people your age. People my age. As if turning 74 automatically made me incompetent. Sarah, I said carefully, yesterday you mentioned moving some of my money to a joint account. Which bank? Pacific Trust. It's a much better bank than First National, higher interest rates, better customer service. How much money did you move? Most of your savings, about $8,000. I thought it would be safer there while we sort out your financial situation. $8,000. The exact amount Detective Santos said had been withdrawn from my account. Can I access that account? Of course, you're the primary account holder. I just added myself as a secondary to help manage things. But I remembered what the detective had told me. The money had been moved to an account under Sarah's name only. She was lying so smoothly, so convincingly. Sarah, I need to ask you something directly. Anything, Mama. Are you in financial trouble? Her face didn't change, but I saw her hands tighten around her wine glass. What do you mean? You mentioned that David moved out. Are there money problems? Nothing we can't handle. But her voice was strained now. Why are you asking? Because I went to the bank on Friday and spoke with a manager. They told me about some very large withdrawals from my account. Sarah was quiet for a long moment, staring at her untouched fish. When she looked up, her expression had changed. The warm, concerned daughter mask had slipped. How much did they tell you? Everything. The withdrawals, the loans, the home, equity line of credit. Mama. She reached for my hand, but I pulled away. $105,000, Sarah. You've stolen over $100,000 from me. I didn't steal anything. I borrowed it. There's a difference. Borrowed implies you asked permission. I couldn't ask permission. You were falling apart after Papa died. You couldn't even remember to eat most days. Someone had to make the hard decisions like forging my signature on loan. Applications? Sarah's composure cracked completely. You want to know the truth, Mama? Fine. David didn't just lose $50,000. He lost everything. Our house, our savings, our retirement accounts, everything. So you decided to take mine. I decided to save what was left of our family. Do you think I wanted to do this? Do you think I enjoyed watching you fall apart while I tried to hold everything together? You could have asked for help. I would have given you money if you'd been honest. How much? 1,000? 2,000? We needed real money, not your Social Security check. The contempt in her voice was like a slap. My Social Security check that you've been stealing for months. I've been managing your finances because you can't. The credit cards you don't remember, the bills you let pile up, the checkbook you haven't balanced since Papa died. Because you told me not to worry about it. You said you'd handle everything because you needed me to handle it. She was standing now, pacing around my kitchen like a caged animal. Do you want to know what your precious Dr. Kim really said? He said you're showing signs of moderate cognitive decline. He recommended a neurological evaluation months ago, but you refused to go. Because you never told me he recommended it. Because I was trying to protect you from the truth. You're not the same person you were before Papa died. You're confused, forgetful, sometimes you don't even recognize the neighbors. Last month, you tried to pay the electric bill with expired checks from 1998. That wasn't true. I would remember something like that. Would I? Sarah, I said quietly, even if everything you're saying is true, that doesn't give you the right to steal from me. I wasn't stealing. I was preserving. Do you know what would happen if I let you keep spending the way you do? You'd be broke in 6 months. And then what? Then you'd really need me, and there'd be no money left to take care of you. So, you decided to take it first. I decided to be responsible for both of us, since you can't be responsible for yourself anymore. She sat back down, and I saw tears in her eyes for the first time. But they weren't tears of remorse. They were tears of frustration. Mama, I love you. I'm trying to save you from yourself. The guardianship, the conservatorship, it's all to protect you. From what? From ending up like Mrs. Wu, alone, broke, dying in some state facility because no one was watching. Out for her. Mrs. Wu died in a nursing home because her son put her there after he stole her money. Just like you're trying to do to me. It's not the same thing, isn't it? The silence stretched between us. Finally, Sarah wiped her eyes and straightened her shoulders. It doesn't matter what you think, Mama. I have power of attorney. I have doctor's notes documenting your decline. Tomorrow, I'm meeting with the attorney, and by the end of the week, you'll be under protective supervision. Whose protection? Yours? Mine. Because I'm the only one who cares enough to make the hard choices. Sarah, I said, standing up, you're right about one thing. Someone does need to make the hard choices. Good. Finally, you're being reasonable. I choose to have you arrested. Her face went white. What? Detective Santos, I called out. I think we have enough. The kitchen door opened, and Detective Santos stepped inside, followed by her partner. Sarah's mouth fell open. Sarah. Chen Martinez, Detective Santos said. You're under arrest for elder financial abuse, identity theft, and bank fraud. Mama, Sarah whispered, you called the police on me. I called the police on someone who's been systematically stealing from me for months while convincing me I was losing my mind. I'm your daughter. Yes, I said, and my voice broke just a little. You are, and that makes what you've done so much worse. As they led Sarah away, she kept looking back at me with a no expression I'd never seen before. Not anger, not sadness, but genuine shock that I'd fought back. The house felt impossibly quiet after they left. I sat in my kitchen, surrounded by the detritus of our last dinner together, the untouched fish, The wine glasses, the brochures for Sunset Manor scattered across the table. Detective Santos had left me with a stack of papers to sign and contact information for victim services. But the most important thing she'd left me was a phone number for a different kind of attorney, one who specialized in protecting seniors from financial abuse. I called the number and left a message. Tomorrow, I would start the process of reclaiming my life, of revoking the power of attorney, recovering my stolen money, and proving that a 74-year-old woman who'd survived revolution, immigration, and widowhood was more than capable of managing her own affairs. But tonight, I sat in my kitchen and grieved. Not for the money. That was just numbers on paper. I grieved for the daughter I'd raised, the one who'd held my hand at Tommy's funeral and promised to take care of me. That daughter was gone, replaced by someone who saw my grief as weakness and my trust as opportunity. Outside my window, the jasmine bloomed in the darkness, filling the air with sweetness. Tommy had planted it because he said it reminded him of hope, something beautiful that grew stronger in the dark. I think he would have been proud of me tonight. For the first time in months, I felt like myself again. Scared, hurt, but absolutely, completely myself. And that was enough. 6 months later, when the notary pulls up the security footage showing a woman who looked like me but walked differently, signed differently, and never once looked directly at the camera, I'll realize that Sarah's greatest mistake wasn't stealing from me. It was underestimating me. The woman who raised her was still very much alive.